as a judge, what are some of the most difficult situations or decisions or things that you've been confronted with that you've had to make? And I'll also ask you, Josh, what are some of the biggest things that concern you about being a judge? Because you're going to have to make some real serious decisions.
Absolutely.
Not that you don't do those things either way, but is there an experience that you can share or some of the things that challenge you every day as being a judge, Judge Guiney? And then I'll toss it to you, Josh, as to some of the things that you are either concerned or not fear, but things that like, hey, this is coming your way and that you haven't been confronted yet with.
I think for me, I know my very first month on the bench when I was in the 179th, I had a PSI that had been set long before I took the bench, and I remember hearing it. It was a case, I don't recall the specifics, but it was prison was appropriate. So it was just a decision about how much prison. And I remember thinking, what an odd thing, because I'm going to say a number and that's going to be the answer, right? I had been a prosecutor. I made what I felt were fair recommendations. I had been a defense attorney asking for different recommendations or accepting recommendations on behalf of my clients. But here I was saying, and this is the sentence. And that was heavy.
Where do you draw your strength from to be able to deal with that every single day? What are some of your inspirations?
I make no bones about it. I pray. I tried to take every case individually and earnestly listen to the aggravating circumstances and the mitigating circumstances, because each case has its own separate set of those issues. And I really just trust that I was put there because, you know, Josh and I have had this conversation before. Nobody's turning out, except my own mother, to vote for Kristin Guiney. Same for Josh. So as much as I would like to say that the voters put me in a place.
Your mom's not coming to vote for me.
No, she's coming to vote for me. Your mother's going to vote for you. As much as I would like to think that there was the judges were placed on the benches by educated voters making informed decisions, I don't know that that's necessarily the case across the board. But I do, for me, and there are certainly great judges who've only been prosecutors or only defense attorneys, but for me, I am more comfortable in my judge skin, having been on both sides of the bench.
Sure. What about you, Josh?
I would say what she described at the beginning of her answer is what I fear, and I think fear is an appropriate word for it, is the gravity of, you know, you're going to have to lock somebody up, and what's the magic number and how do you come to that number? And I'd imagine as a judge, you have to rely a lot on both lawyers to feed you information. You can only gather so much on your own from the bench, so you rely on both sides to feed it to you, and you're hoping you're getting the full picture. You hope you understand all of it before you pronounce a sentence, and that's something that'll be incredibly heavy.
And what are some of your inspirations? Where are you going to draw on this strength? Because the burden that is placed upon a judge in a district court is something that's phenomenal that I don't think, unless you're down there every day and see it and or been a part of it, one can truly comprehend. And so where and you have to be very strong, because the people, the community, the defense bar, the prosecutor, the state of Texas, and the voters put that responsibility and that you accept. And so you can't buckle.
Nope.
And so where do you find your inspiration to deal with those kind of things?
So
what are they?
A number of places, actually. So first of all, when it comes to the career, when it comes to when I was a prosecutor, as a defense attorney now, and if I were to win this election, a lot of my decision-making comes from remembering victims of cases when I was a prosecutor that would tell me their stories, that I had to be their voice. I had to hear about the pain and the struggles they faced, whether I won the trial, lost the trial, cut a deal, whatever it was, and remembering how they felt about it, what they expressed to me. Some were happy even after an acquittal. Some were heartbroken after what I thought was a great deal. I remember Judge Guiney and I tried a case together, and I got a letter from the victim. It was an acquittal, and I got a letter from the victim thanking me, and it was real heartfelt about how she was so happy that I'd stood up for her, even when her own family wouldn't. That's a part of it. When I hear the struggles of my clients and their families and what they go through and the impact that the criminal justice system has on them, that gives me a different perspective. I look to my own family and think, what would happen if they were the victims of a crime, or if they were stuck in this system? What would I want to have happen? And you put that together, and that is a whole lot of information. It's a lot of stress kind of tangled together. And as odd as it sounds, my whole life since I was 4 or 5, started doing combat sports, whether it was karate, taekwondo, wrestling in high school and college, jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, whatever. Always learn that whatever type of uncomfortable situation you're in, no matter how bad it seems, no matter how rough it is, and you just want to give up, put in the effort, put in the work, be confident in what you're doing, really try to assess the entire situation, and the correct opportunity should present itself. You're going to mess up sometimes. You're not always going to make the right call. But if you take everything as it comes and you look for it, you should be able to find something that's more right than wrong.
You think you got the skin to be a judge?
I think so.